Okay. So, hello. First of all, thanks a lot for responding to my invite.
You're welcome, Dov.
And I'll I'll start by just for the sake of the context, uh, saying a bit of who I am and what's the intention, and then we'll see what happens. So my name is Dov, for those of you who don't know me. I'm an agile coach, and I met Charles-Louis. CL, can I call you CL?
Yep.
So I met CL in a big and failing transformation. May we say that?
Yes. I mean, I wasn't part of that. I was working for a sister company, but I was not working at that same organization where you were.
Yeah. Anyway, it was really no, there was something that clicked, and we stayed connected since then. And the reason I'm doing this thing is because at some point I realized that there's a lot of people that I like that I didn't talk to in a long while. So I would love to have a chat with them, to just to catch up, to say what's going on, to chew the fat. So imagine that we're in a coffee,
Mm.
sort of, and hi, how are you? Now, all the people who are invited, they sit in a table nearby and they listen to us, and they can interrupt, just like in a coffee. Someone hears something interesting nearby and they interrupt.
Mm.
Okay, so I have no clue and I didn't prepare anything.
Great.
I think because one of the things that I like in life, I guess, is emergence. It's just to see what's going on. So be prepared for awkward. I'm talking to the audience because for us it's okay. Be prepared for awkward silences and for bathroom. I don't know whatever can happen in a coffee. Okay.
Mm.
So that's the context. Do you want to say a few words about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm Charles Louis. I've been dabbling around in different stuff. I mean, I've been in computer science, then I walked into the agile space, and now the things that I'm very keen about is really the thin line between facilitating and teaching, and experimenting with stuff. I like it when you talk about emergence, because this is also some of the things that I like. Some of the things I did earlier where Faustine was also present was workshops around fairy tales and stories, and just seeing what happens when we put people together in a room. And so this is, yeah, I think this is in a nutshell what I could describe me if I look only at the work aspect of myself. But there's also another part of me where I'm also a father of 3 children. The eldest is going to be 17 somewhere in May, and so 2 daughters and then one son who has just become 11. So that's it's an interesting thing to see also how life has changed things. I mean, another thing that you know about me, Dov, is that I love to travel, and it's been a while since I've done that. Although the flip side of it is that I've met my teenage children's for it was like meeting them for the first time, because spending all this time with them was like, okay, discovering oneself, and noticing that in contrast to when I was always traveling, conversations with them weren't always around fighting, so we could have other kinds of conversations, so that was cool.
And when you say that you like to travel, for me, this year was the year I traveled the most.
Mm.
So first of all, I was in you know that I was in Nepal,
Yeah.
which was wonderful. But all of this thing, the normally, I don't know what's normal, but let's for the sake of conversation, let's say normally, we still remember what we mean, right? Um, I wouldn't meet you for a coffee
Mm.
because I have coffee near me, which is more of the default place to meet people.
Yeah.
And currently, I like this year, I met so many people that I wouldn't have the chance to meet and developed connections that are deep, that are not not shallow. Uh, you have a chance to take things deeply, also because we all had a quite amazing experience last year, right? So good or bad, I don't know what these words mean, but it for sure it was significant. Like it was, no, we passed something very significant together, a shared experience. So for me, the traveling part, no, I can go now to India and to the US and to Australia, and I do it on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
So
So
it's a state of
you-
mind.
where do you live right now? Because I think last time we spoke, you lived in France.
Currently, as you see, I'm in Paris.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I can see that. With I recognize the trees, because that's also the thing. We can work anywhere from where we are. And I remember, I think it was Jürgen Appelo that wrote a few years ago that his office space was airports, coffee shops, or whatever. And I think at that time I couldn't really see what he meant. And I was like, hey, my job, I can't imagine my job of working with people, but being detached from them. And it's
Detached is a state of mind, no?
yeah, 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 totally, totally. Because I I told myself stories like, if I'm not present, how can I know what's going on? How can I hear whatever background noise there is, or so on? And it's true. It's like if a tree falls in the forest and there's no one to hear it, does it
Yeah.
make a sound?
My variation, by the way, and like we have as guests only women, so but the joke is if a man says something and there's no woman in the room, is still wrong.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
It's a koan. You don't have to answer. It's it's you just have to meditate on it.
Mm, yeah.
That's it. So yeah, it for me this year was a blessing, really. Like I think also on a much larger scale, it was a blessing. Like
Mm.
it's just like I don't know what you think about what's going on now in the US, but for me this is a blessing as well. Like whatever doesn't kill you is probably good for your immune system.
Mm. Yeah. It's
So
this is interesting because I had a conversation with a friend the other day also about the state of the planet. Because he was talking to someone who says, "Oh, the planet is really going haywire. Things. I mean, our planet is not going well." But he said, "I'm not sure." And the other say, "But yeah, look at what's happening. Temperature. Global warming, and so on." And he said, "Hey, when you've got a bug in the system, when you've got a virus or whatever, how does your body react? Fevers, whatever, so you're not feeling well and so on. So actually, I think the planet's going well. It's doing whatever it can to kind of stop the virus from spreading. It's more humanity that's probably not going well, but it's depending on how you look at things.
and I think like this is it's interesting because it's the human centric view, right? When we say the world and the planet, we mean our own us.
our own existence. Yes.
Like the planet doesn't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we covered this and we covered that, and now what?
Yeah. But it's interesting. I don't know if you've read the book *Sapiens*.
Yeah, I think I read parts of it and I listened to Yuval Noah Harari, whatever.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
but
I
yeah,
I read the comic book of it, so I cannot pretend that I'm the smartest person that read the whole book and so on. But I I read the comic book version of it, and I liked it how actually we have our human-centric view, and it's difficult for a human to kind of disengage or distance ourselves from that, because we're in it.
Yeah,
And
so
it's
we can go to Taoism next, I guess.
okay.
Yeah, but okay. Any questions from you three? And you don't have to.
When you're on mute, we can't hear you, but
Yeah, but they talk between themselves.
yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting questions because last time it was at the end, so I'm listening and
It's a totally free form.
yeah. It's while you were speaking, you know, I was like, yes, 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 and I agree with what you were saying about, you know, the planet or nature trying to course correct for what, you know, humans are doing, and it's I am very, very interested in like the microbiome system, both in you know, myself on a like micro level, but also in management systems.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, how what kind of is like the baseline of, you know, a healthy microbiome system, and how much, you know, can we input, do we need to put in, and you know, what can tip the balance from a healthy system or from an unhealthy system and influence it into a healthier model, and how much influence does that take, you know? So I'm constantly fascinated by that. And so watching, you know, with the pandemic, and then what's going on in the United States, you know, while, you know, both of them are horrific on a number of different levels, it's also incredibly fascinating. So I almost feel guilty by like, oh, this is the best science experiment ever. And and there's so many of my friends that are like, oh my God, and they're just suffering. And I'm like, oh, but isn't it interesting? And so I have to be careful, you know, with who I'm talking to at any given time, that, you know, where I use the volume control on my excitement and fascination. Yeah.
I really love your insight about this. Is really fascinating, and I think being able to say that is also something that we can do when we don't feel involved or engulfed by it. Because if you feel like you're part of it, you know, it's the story about this farmer who has horses, and then at some point he loses his horses. You know, the fence was broken and they ran away. And so his neighbors comes along and say, "Oh, you lost your horses. Oh, you poor fellow, you've lost your horses. What will you do?" It's you probably know that.
Yeah.
Go
ahead, because maybe not everybody knows it.
Okay. And so
who knows it? Raise your hand. Okay, so go ahead.
So, you know, he's like, okay. The neighbor says, "You poor fellow, you've lost your horses. It's terrible. How will you, you know, tend your crops and so on?" And he said, "You know, I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't know." And then the next day, he wakes up and then he sees, you know, he mended the fence, and then he sees in the well, the place where the horses were, the 3 horses have come back, but with 1 extra horse that they found somewhere. You know, they brought a fellow along with them, and he's like, wow. And then the neighbor comes along and, wow, it's fantastic, you've got 1 extra horse, it's fantastic, you're going to be able to do a lot much more with that, it's great news, fantastic. And he's like, I don't know. And so of course his son starts to work with the new horse to try and tame the new horse. And you know, the horse is quite wild, and when the son jumps on it, suddenly he roars and in all sides, and the son falls and breaks his leg. and the neighbor says, "Oh, you poor fellow, you've lost your son, you know, your only able-bodied son. He's now broken his leg. How can he help you at the farm? You've got, oh, that's so terrible. It's it's so bad." He's like, "I don't know." And you know, next day war breaks out, and all able-bodied young men are asked to fight in the war. And of course, the son stays home. And the neighbor says, "Oh, you're so lucky to have your son stay with you, because my two sons are now fighting for a war I didn't ask." And he's like, "I don't know." So it's like, you know, all these events, we can color them the way we want. And it's about being a bit detached from the event, allows us to see it as in, that's what I meant by being detached.
Yeah.
Living in the United States, of course, you're impacted by it, but it's how you choose to react on that makes the whole difference.
I think
Exactly.
to some extent we're impacted by everything that happens in the world. You know, the fact that we are now having this conversation means that some servers save it, which means that there's more electricity somewhere, or there's less. Like everything is connected to an extent.
Yeah.
Okay, so to say impacted or not is not, you know, everything is impacted by everything. But I do agree, and I do agree that detaching yourself allows you to see the larger picture. It allows you to breathe and observe, and also one other thing, and is that the less words you put on what you see, the more you observe, because words define reality in a very strict way. You know, like if you say that something is red, you stop seeing it. You stop questioning its color. But when you just observe it for whatever hits your eye, you will see that it's moving all the time. And I have a story about this if you want. I used to do eye contact. Currently, I don't, but like it's a group of people decide that they go to a certain, you know, Place de Liberté, and we just at some point we sit on the ground and we look into each other's eyes for 1 or 2 minutes without speaking, and we invite people that stare at us to join us. And one thing that happened to me, there's a lot of things that happened to me that are interesting, but one thing is that after I did it a few times, I noticed that when I look at some people in some light, the color of the face starts pulsating. It becomes a bit more green, a bit more red, a bit more green, a bit more red. No, it's not constant. And a while later, I saw a TED talk by someone who created a change microscope. So he takes, let's say you have a video of a baby, the monitor, and you can see that your baby is moving a lot because it enhances movement, or it enhances change of color. And for the change of color, he showed a video of Christian Slater, I think, in the movie Batman, and he's asleep, and his face pulsated just like I saw with the people. Okay, so what I'm saying is when you believe what you see, it blocks yourself from seeing. When you define the color of the face of someone to be this, then you block it from changing. And that's why I'm saying when you observe, try not to label what you observe. No, and a lot of time, you know this, in a team, you just look, and when something happens, you react.
Mm.
And you don't say, this person hates what's going on. No, their reaction is subtle. You can't put a label on it because then you will lose all of the nuance.
Mm.
So that's my story.
I
You want to
totally,
talk about stories?
Oh,
Like, yeah.
I was gonna say, I totally agree with what you're talking about with the training, that we can't, you know, and training and mentoring and facilitating it, because we have to stay open. So we have to keep ourselves in kind of this stasis, observer, uh, uh, kind of position, and is just holding space, if that makes any sense, and just, observing and letting things happen, just a lot of times by our energy. And so in that respect, I agree with you. However, the the naming and things, not necessarily labeling, but the observing, and you let it pass, like they talk about in meditation, where you just let it pass, and you're like, huh, there's a thing, huh, and you let it pass. But having a name for something is so powerful. I do agree that it's if it the propensity to name something and then stop it from moving. But if we try and stay in a state where you observe something and then just let it go, or observe the change, like you say, and it's sort of the thing of having kind of that, I don't want to overuse the word quantum, but having a foot in both states at the same time.
Use it.
And
So you're
trying
allowed two more before you say you overused it.
Okay, see, I have permission. I have permission. Because, and it's funny because I have, because we have this collaboration household. And you could ask her, because I tend to live in a state that, like, the gray area, and I'm very comfortable with being, so the detachment was the first thing that you said, and I'm like, I don't necessarily agree with that, because you can be present without, but and being detached. So you don't have to pick either side. It's not an either or.
How can you be present and attached?
You detached and present at the same time. It's that
for sure. I think the only way to be present is to be detached.
Yes,
I think.
and I think so as well, because it's like it's having a foot in both camp. It's not an either or. For me, it's an and.
Yes.
To be in there, but I do have trouble describing that to a lot of people, because it's the thing of the acceptance of what is at the moment, and watching the change, being comfortable in the change of something that is and yet is not at the same time.
Yes, so I have a problem with the word is as well. Like, I'll tell you, the place I come from is Taoism. So I was really influenced by this book that I don't have near me now because it's in the living room, in a few versions, which is the Book of Tao. And like in the book, there's several books of Tao. So there's the Book of Tao, the usual one, and there's this Xuanzu that was written theoretically by one of his students. And the first article there starts by saying, all words are false. No, any word that uses false. However, I have no choice but to write this in words. So yeah, words have power. Words define, like, in fact, I think that if you know that words are false, you can change the world with words. Okay. Like, if now I tell you that to concentrate on your nose, then you will start scratching it, and this way, really remotely, I manage to manipulate your action just by using words.
And I think about this thing about words having like different meanings, or like not being the perfect description of the thing. There's this quote by George Carlyle. It's a very short thing, and it's meow means woof in cat. And I think that sums it up. I love it. It's really something. It's fantastic. Meow means wolf in cat.
Yeah. So my favorite one is I think I told you this. Time flies like an arrow, fruit flies like a banana.
Yeah.
And it takes you so much time to understand this, because the first sentence primes you into understanding the second one.
Yeah. The
Like,
definition of flies and like, yeah,
yeah.
different. Yeah.
So be careful. I don't know, be careful, but be
Be aware.
I currently I coach quite a few people, and most of the work I do is to make them hear the words that they say,
Oh yeah.
to make them understand what's the implication of every word choice. Like the most popular and simple example is the use of but. Like, I want to be there, but I can't. These are two facts, and the but is just a mental contradiction between two facts that exist perfectly separately.
Yeah.
And it creates a lot of resonance and conflict in your head, because now you have two parts of your mind that are fighting with each other. Like, you created some universe where someone wants to do something and someone can't, and now they fight because of this word.
Yeah, be careful. You might prime Sharon to use the forbidden word.
It has two more.
Yeah, it's totally that. Or I have to go to this meeting.
Right.
Have to, you know?
So I would start by challenging the word I, by the way.
Oh, the one you write with 3 letters or with 1?
With one. Like, where is this I?
Yeah.
What it is, but it's okay, too advanced perhaps.
I think, therefore I am, or something like that.
No, the version I know is I think, therefore I am, I think.
Yeah.
One thing that I started to talk to you about a while back, and like already in the pandemic, is the different approach to stories. Because what I noticed in your thing is that the stories you collect are sort of moral stories, are stories with a point at the end. And the stories that I love are stories that are, like Zen Taoist stories, like stories that have that leave you hanging. And so how did it go, in fact? So tell me, where is your story adventure now?
Oh, so I've done 2 rounds of what I called around the world in less than 80 days. And it's been fantastic because, maybe some of the stories have a moral. What has surprised me in the sessions is that what comes out from the group is not necessarily the one you think, or the one that jumps to mind. And this is really the one thing that I noticed, is that for those who don't know, this is basically, I've run a few sessions where we would gather around a fireplace like here, and somebody would tell a story, and then people would just, I would ask some kind of questions, maybe coaching questions, maybe questions to kind of reflect on our understanding of the story, and then people would discuss that in small groups. And the wonderful thing was that we had people coming from, you talked earlier about traveling, and so we had people from all over the world together in the same room, who could exchange based on their culture, based on what was happening. I remember at some point we had some friends, you know Alexandra from Peru, who were at that point in a very tight lockdown, whereas in other countries it was lighter. And the way the story resonated with them was also impacted by the current situation they were in. And that was wonderful to have this possibility to exchange. And another thing that I've appreciated is that since I made it in a pay what you think is fair thing, I've had people who had work and who were able to afford it, and other people who told me, hey, I've been out of work since the start of the pandemic, and I really appreciate being able to go there because it's kind of my beacon of hope to have these sessions where I can meet friends, because otherwise it's like, oh, I have to go, or I have to, I have this new interview and I hope I will get it or not. There's all this stress about, and this was kind of a bubble of free space. And yeah, I don't know, maybe I mean, you were also in one of the sessions or in a few of the first sessions, and you, Faustine, you've also participated. So maybe I don't know if you'd like to share your experience.
From my experience, and sometimes I'm really impatient, which you know. And when people start, like, what I don't like is my impression that people speak to hear their own voice.
Mhm.
And this is something that I'm trying to learn how to cut politely. Let's say, to cut it, I know. To be polite, I know. To combine the two is the challenge, right? So that's what disturbed me there.
Oh.
So when people get tangled in, bringing a lot, not knowing when to breathe and let the voice of silence or something else go into the conversation. So at least in the session that I was, there were like 2 times that it was too long for me.
Okay.
And also for my feedback, the stories are sometimes too long. Okay, so I'll give you an example of a story I like. Okay, there was a king. That you like stories that start like with there was a king, right?
I don't know.
So there's a king, and on his son's I don't know what, 13th birthday, let's say, when he comes to be a man, he takes him on this long journey that goes up the tallest hill in the kingdom, and they arrive really like breathing, and the sun starts setting, and it's beautiful, and the king says to his son, look, one day all of this will be yours. And on the same time, there's a peasant again, and his son turns of age, and he goes up this mountain, and there's a beautiful sunset, and he tells to his son, look, okay, so you see the point here is that it stops in a place that makes you look inside. Just like the fruit flies like a banana, it uses the same pattern to show something completely different, to show that there's an alternative. So this is like an example. There's shorter stories, koans are stories.
Yeah.
So, Charles-Louis, do you teach people how to do it in that short form, or do we just wish people naturally knew how to do that in short form?
You mean telling stories in short form, or?
Yeah, because if it's always long, like what do you do when you have a big group and people go on and on and on? And so with your stories, which by the way, it's like, I totally want to do that thing. I want to be in on it. But there's, are there parameters? Do people know ahead of time that they have a short period of time?
I could answer that, and maybe, I don't know if Faustine, you want to say something about that, or because you've also experienced that, and I think it would be good to have you answer first.
Yeah, well, I loved it. It was, yeah, maybe the stories were longer than what you just shared with us, Dove. But there were some breathing time to break into groups and discuss how the story would unfold and what other meaning we could find in it. So I really loved it. Very interesting to see the different perspective from one tiny example, how people will connect the dots in a very different way from one another. So again, the power of words. And yeah, words are not enough. If you want to convey one specific information, you'd better have some other medium to use, an image or something else. And I did one more workshop with Francis. I forgot his last name. Yeah, where we from Okusai painting, The Prince. I don't know if you're familiar with the main one that we know, we see everywhere is the big wave with Mount Fuji at the back. And he was showing us images, and one after the others, we would go and spontaneously, within, I think it would not even take 1 minute, share a story. And it should not be a description of the image. It would be what we are feeling based on what we see. And it was also very powerful. And I could make a connection with what we did with you, Charles-Louis. And I don't know if it was the kind of uniformity of the group that allowed it. Sometimes in the break rooms, it could work very well without even setting rules on how we will work. Like there was one time that he asked us, based on one painting, to build the stories together. We had a bit of time. One person would go after the other. So we were just 3, so it was very tiny, but still some groups really fought and didn't agree of what was going to happen and the direction of the boat toward Mount Fuji or back to the horse. And for us, it was so smooth. One will stop talking, the next one will pick up. She will know that the other one was done. And we really managed to make a nice story. I'm definitely biased, but the power of collective intelligence was very striking to that experience.
What makes that? Like what in I'm curious. Like you have a group of, I don't know what, 4 people, let's say 5 people, who probably didn't meet each other before.
No, we didn't know each other. Yeah.
And what you describe is the sense of flow. Like even though we have this small delay on the line and some video, just like you, by the way, CL, your video does blink. So, you know, so you have all of these distractions, and still you manage to get to a state of flow in one entity, which is called a group, right? Not to be disconnected. What's the spice there?
I would think it comes down to natural inclination of each individuals. So, for instance, if I'll talk about myself, I tend to be open-minded, respectful. I'll take my time, and I will be sure not to step on anyone's toes. And I think somehow the other participant will take the same precautions and build on the proposition that was on the table. Much like when we do impro in the theater, the rule is you always go yes and when there is something that comes, even if it's not what you had in mind. So you have to go with that, and you have to preserve this creation that is coming, because it's the one of the group and it's not yours only. It's not your belonging, I would say. So,
and I also think that there's a few parameters where, as a facilitator, I can work with that. And this maybe also comes back to what you were asking, Sharon. is, for instance, if I would do a session and I would say to a small group, okay, now discuss this. You've got 45 minutes. Discuss this in a group.
Mhm.
So this is probably going to be too long.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, and this is also, you know, Dov, I think you went to the first few sessions, and of course I tweaked and I learned from that.
Guys, it's okay.
Yeah. And the thing is, I started to adapt the way that I would have the groups work together by having, for instance, short time frames in breakout rooms, less than 10 minutes. And by saying, hey, you've got to discuss this in a group, so make sure that you got, and of course there's always people where you say, okay, you know, how can I politely interrupt her or him? And they are like that, and we are like that because we probably don't dare to interrupt. And so it's, again, it's again, I like what you said, Faustine, is like at some point you either say the rules or you don't say them, but you kind of organically work together, and it's really like being in a state of flow. So, and another example that I did in one of the stories, when I asked people to draw a map of the story, draw the map of the story, and then they presented their own map of the story they just listened to the others. And of course, it all happens in breakout rooms, so I'm never part of that. So I don't know what happens. And when they come back, they can choose to share whatever they want. And they shared things there. It was like, Faustine, it was really like crazy. Some people had drawn, like, you know, really a physical map with the places, but others had written the story through dance moves. Like, this is how the people interacted with, you know, they were closer together or further apart and so on. And so this was really like almost touching, a visible way of showing that we might all have heard the same story, and we all have our own interpretation of what happened, of the words of whatever. And it was really like almost making our thought processes visible.
That's
Yeah,
so
and
cool.
that's an interesting point. So two things that I wanted to say. One, for a while, my favorite album in the world was "Remain in Light" by the Talking Heads.
Hmm.
And the way they wrote the lyrics, with Brian Eno facilitating and everything, is that they started by cutting out random words from newspapers and rearranging them, probably after under some illegal substances at the time, or still. Okay, so and the second one, it's a deeper thing. I think that if we are anything, and like I'm trying to speak in the voice of Kurt Vonnegut, he would probably say we're story making machines. And this is like connected a little bit to the Taoist, view. Reality is one and doesn't make any sense. Okay, reality is a huge soup, and we make stories out of what we want to see in that reality.
Mm.
So stories don't exist except in our mind perception of what's going on, like in you and me, and like as coaches, and I don't, our word that we shouldn't say today no more: coaching, facilitating, and agile, which we didn't say, but that's okay. But as what we do, which is coaching, don't tell
Yeah, yeah.
him.
And
It's important to stay detached from our stories and to make the stories that other people say visible to them as stories.
mm,
So your ability to say, in fact, my boss wants me to do something bad, or something he wants my friend here, it's a story. And if you're able to see it as a story that's written on about other people, which is just an interpretation that can go totally differently, and this is the detachment part that I was talking about, then you're able to change reality, because reality is a story and the story is in your head.
Mm.
So that's more or less the way I see it, and that's why I like this format, like the koans, you know, the sentences that make you stop and think and start to disbelieve the stickiness of words and reality.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, so if I can prove to you that the words are not reality, I can't get the words out of your head. But like, there's a nice saying that I saw somewhere on Facebook: don't believe everything you think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is the so you can think about it, but think about it in an observing way. So say there is someone, Dov, and he thinks that this.
And it's really helpful to have that, because I remember a few years ago I really was stuck inside a story. I was abroad, and I had called my wife in the morning, and we had a kind of tough conversation. So we hung up, but like a bit angry at each other. And then I had told her that I would go, I think, to swimming pool or whatever. And then I sent her a message at just before going, and I expected a message back, but I didn't see any. And then I was like, okay, what's happening? Is she angry? Is she mad at me? And this was really like, my phone was still remaining black and like no calls, no whatever. And okay, she must be very mad at me. She must. And this was really the whole story that I was. And actually, she told me I had just gone for a walk without my phone because I needed some air. And that's it.
So this reminds me of a joke that I like, and I wanted to ask you about jokes that you like as well. There's a guy who moves into a new building, and he wants to eat, but he doesn't know where's the pan. So he says, "I'll go to the neighbors and I'll ask for a pan." And he goes up the stairs and he says, "And perhaps, the neighbors will be nice. Perhaps even there will be a lovely girl that will open the door for me." And he goes up more and he says, and perhaps, who knows, she will ask me to eat there, and then we will start going out, and perhaps we'll get married, and we'll have kids, and then we'll start to divorce, and it will be an ugly divorce, and it will be horrible. And while doing this, he knocks on the door, and there's a girl opening, and he says, "Fuck you and your pan."
Yeah.
And this is like, it's yeah, and part of this is why I like. What's your favorite joke, or your, I don't know, favorite, but like what's the
Yeah. Okay. My favorite joke is about a three-legged dog that needs to pee and falls on the falls. It's very short, to the point.
I have a similar one. There's a dog in the desert, and he says, "I have to find a tree or my bladder will explode."
Mm.
It's,
Yeah,
okay.
I also like puns. Play on words, like the fruit flies like a. But the thing is, I know much more in French than in English. And now, of course, I've got teenage kids. I mean, of course, I don't know why I interjected that, but now I'm reflected that I do dad jokes. So yeah.
So my favorite jokes are jokes by Stephen Wright. We talked about him. Stephen Wright is a one sentence comedian. So one thing that he said is, "I went to a general store, but I couldn't buy anything specific." Or he says, "It's the early bird who gets the worm, but it's the second mouse who gets the cheese." All right. Or another thing which is great, he said, "Before you judge someone, you should walk a mile in their shoes. This way, when you judge them, you're a mile away and you have their shoes." And again, like, it's taking a cliche
Mhm.
and reversing it totally.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
it
That's
makes you, because everyone knows before you walk a mile, before you judge someone, walk a mile in their shoes, and we take it as a truism, like
Mhm.
right, we take it as a rule for life because people say that.
mm,
And the ability to say yes, it's true for a totally different reason is something that is, this is the funny part.
the finesse.
Like why do people laugh? Why do you think people laugh? I have a theory.
Because you told a joke.
What is laughter? What
Ah, okay,
what is?
I thought it was a joke again. Why do people laugh? Hmm. I think my answer will tell a lot about myself, but not so. My theory on, and I've written books and books about that. My theory on why people laugh is because life in itself is absurd, and so we need to be able to work with that. Because if we take it too seriously, what's the point?
So you say laughter is a choice.
Yes.
Yeah, but so no, I don't think so. That you never laughed even if you didn't want to.
Okay. All right. I did.
I'll tell you the way I see it. Laughter is a place where two, like, you're not one. Okay, you are the one that says, you have two inside you, one that says I want to go there, and one that says but I have to work. The but is the connection between two halves. And in fact, you're not two halves, you're a lot of things. You want to fuck and to kill and to steal and to tons of stuff, and you also want to be in peace and love and everything, all of this at the same time. And there's conflicts there. And there's parts in you, the way I see it, that don't talk to each other, because otherwise you will be in total conflict.
Yeah.
And a joke is something that allows these silent things to come out for a second. And it's a small conflict between your whole self. I don't know how to call it. Your thing, your the thing that is awake now, and the things that come out. So that's why kids laugh at shit, poop jokes and pee jokes and stuff like that. As adults, we don't laugh about that much because we're already in peace with that part. So we laugh with things that challenge our axioms of life.
Oh, okay.
It's a theory. It's like this is my model.
Yeah.
It's all models are false. I say it. Yes.
No, that's an interesting what you're saying, and it's like I like studying comedic writing, and I'm fascinated with it. And the timing is one thing, and this and that, and like again the why laughter. I've read books about laughter, and there was actually a podcast, and it's like, oh my god, I was thinking, which one was that? Oh shit, I don't remember, but it was in the like 3-4 months ago. Sorry, I can't tell you. I'm going to furiously look it up. I could send you the link because it talked about this, and it was literally the
To the meeting if you want.
The biology, in the biology, but the study of that. And so they were saying that it's like humans and chimpanzees and another animal, and we are like the three in the animal kingdom that laugh. And so that was fascinating. And so on one hand, with the comedic writing, there has to be a certain level of tension in it, and you're exactly right, Dove, with there's got to be that conflict. And so good comedians, they're very, very adept at building the tension. They release it a little bit, they build it and peak it a little bit more, they release a little bit of it, and then they like Hannah Gatsby, master, absolute master of this. And so there's but for example, we laugh at stuff. If you've ever owned a dog or a cat, you can't not laugh at your animals, and there's no conflict or tension really in there. They're just silly. So there's the element of
They're
play.
silly compared to whom?
No, it's a delight. It's a factor
Yeah.
of delight. We as animals.
Okay. So you talk about a different kind of laughter, right? You talk you talk
Right.
about
Right. There's
laughter of
different
delight
kinds
and not laughter of a joke. It's a different.
Right. And different cultures, for example, the German culture, they like that Schadenfreude thing where somebody is being humiliated or, punished or something happens. They love the slapstick humor. Whereas the French, it's more nuanced. And I love the French humor because of this. It's very nuanced, very sophisticated, very intricate. And I just love the French humor. That's kind of my favorite, I would say.
So probably I'm losing opportunities here.
Yeah. But what I'll do is I'll send you a bunch of
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Coluche, whatever. Yes, it's
not like the painting tsunami of links. I promise I won't. But yeah, but it's the different kinds of laughter that's super interesting.
yeah, and me also. Like, where are you in the U.S.?
Me?
Yeah.
We're in outside of Lorient, France.
So you're okay.
In
Yeah.
Brittany.
Okay.
Bretagne.
Yes.
Brittany.
Yes.
Oh wow.
I thought you were in the U.S. A person that I adored, and it's a pity that he was, outcast because of stuff, is Louis C.K. This guy, he made me laugh hysterically.
He's funny. Yeah. But he does that thing that a lot of white men do, just by the cultural thing. Like this is the thing that it's, you should always punch up, never punch down. If you punch down, that's a cheap shot, and it's at the expense of somebody below you. And it's the punching up, everything is fair game. But when you're making fun of like women or rape or something, now you can tell a good rape joke, but you got to be real careful and you got to be clever. Because everything for me, there's nothing taboo for me. You can ask her. But you got to be clever about it. That's.
We can talk about Louis C.K. I think he's super clever.
But he punches down, or he did. He used to. Yeah.
Right.
If he made me laugh, then for me he did his job.
Yeah.
And in a way, I understand this punching down. And at the same time, it's like, okay, why can we only laugh about things like punching up and not about punching down? In a way, I think punching down can also make us vulnerable.
I can give you an example.
I have, because I remember the one that let's talk about this. He said, you should never rape a woman. Never, 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 never. Unless you want to. Okay. So this is punching down, right?
Yeah.
But it's funny because he doesn't talk about women here, for me.
He talks about men.
He talks, for me, even not this. He talks about when we break laws.
Wait, tell me the punchline again.
He said, unless you want to, unless you're attracted to her, something like that. Okay.
Okay. See, that's
So no, I think unless you want to, it's not unless you're attracted to her, would work less.
Yeah.
Right. The second one works. The first one, unless you're not attracted to you, that's like, that's yeah.
Well, there's a saying in
power over. That's
again.
Power.
There's also a saying in French which is like, that I heard when I was a kid, was like, never hit a woman. And I think another punchline was except with the rose, something, because the rose has the thorns.
Yeah. Meh.
Again, you know, but this is, yeah.
It's not that it's
this is
not
the thing.
offensive. It's just not.
There is someone called Dan, I don't know what, and he has a TED talk called cute, sweet, sexy, funny.
Mhm.
And he says these four things, they don't exist. Scientists don't know today chemically to analyze something and tell you if it's sweet. Okay, cute is something in our mind. It's a function of no, it's something in the mind of the observer. Sexy for sure, because otherwise the most sexy women in the world, monkeys and elephants, will be attracted to them.
Yes.
And funny is another thing. There's no such thing as funny. It's funny to us, and it's an illusion to think that something is absolutely anything. As I said before, absolutely green or blue, but also absolutely funny. Okay,
Right.
and
Right.
if I go back, it joins the view I have that when something makes you laugh, it touches a conflict that you have, but not in a too aggressive way, right? So if I say I punch someone and he died, you will not laugh, right?
It depends. No, sorry.
If I say and he died, but not literally, then probably I got you back somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so like this journey of making conflicting parts of your psyche talk to each other
Mm-hmm.
is and the laughter is this conflict, is the dialogue. That's
And
this the way I
this
see it.
could also, I mean, you know, comedians, they don't make everyone laugh. You can't have like I mean, I think Monty Python knew about the ultimate joke that would kill everybody, but
Yeah.
I think that's the only one, and no one knows that joke anymore. So
Mm.
I don't think there is one joke that would make everyone laugh, because probably also based on the tensions, based on your cultural whatever, based on the situation you're in. Maybe a joke that you tell me today will make me laugh today, but not next week or not previous week.
I'm gonna
And
go
for
try
sure,
and
if you
grab
hear the
over.
same joke a few times, your two parts or your conflicting parts are already healed, are already integrated more.
Mm.
Okay, so this is why the jokes that made you laugh when you were 3, I don't think they will work on you anymore.
No. Yeah.
Which one are you looking for? The laughter book. I don't know where it is.
So what else?
I don't know where it is.
Mm. What else?
I saw that you have now the thing about helping facilitators find their comfort zone or something like that. Tell
Yeah.
me.
Oh yeah. So this is also a fun. I mean, I find it funny.
Now you're careful. It's good.
So I mean, like, I've been exploring a lot on this facilitation aspect, especially online, and the stories were also part of that. So it's like not using technology for the sake of it, but just really like finding how we can get people or groups to move forward, or so on. And then I followed a training called Really Rapid Instructional Design, which was like how can you, like, in like taking things from design thinking, from lean startup, from all these things, how could you create your training, bootstrap it, and tweak it as you go along? And so my idea at the end of the training was like, hey, there's probably a lot of wonderful people, very knowledgeable people that have loads of things to say, but probably they don't dare to do it. Maybe, you know, they've got an imposter syndrome, maybe they've got an inner critic, or maybe you've got tremendous, brilliant people that just don't know how to give a message, and that will bore their audience so that they fall asleep. So what if we could do something about that? And then I came up with the title. As you know, in the process of that training, the idea was to come up with something and then to flesh it out. And the title I had, the first one was Arrogance for Trainers.
101. No?
Huh?
Arrogance for Trainers 101.
Yeah.
So always leaves you a chance to have 102 later.
Yeah, actually, I added something afterwards. It was like arrogance for trainers or how to present with confidence,
Mm.
which kind of and it's again, I got some people telling me, hey, you can't publish a training with a title like that, you know, it's arrogant, or you know, it's, and it's like, okay, maybe they're missing the joke, and I don't mind, but it's really about that. And then I published it online and I said, hey, who wanna play test it with me? And then I got some people signing up. And based on that, so I'm now running the first real one this Friday. So it's actually 2.5 days where we work with a group based on, okay, what are the challenges you have? How do you find this facilitating online or even in presence? And based on that, it's really like finding your own facilitation style, because it makes no sense to have everyone copying what Charles-Louis does, or Dove, or Faustine, or Sharon. Makes no sense.
But you know, at the place of Sharon, there's two people.
Yes, there's Sharon and somebody else.
Saskia.
Saskia. Okay,
Saskia. Oh,
it's quantum. No.
He said it, it's still on your credit.
Yes. No. That's not
no. The credit is individual. It's me who making the rules.
Yeah. So you know, it's all about finding your own style. So remaining true to yourself, but maybe finding some tweaks here and there so that you can, you know, because if you're giving a session, there has to be an intent for you and also for the participants. We talked earlier about the words not meaning the same thing for everyone. So if I publish a training out there, maybe people register for reasons that I don't even know. They probably see something else in the training that I don't see. So it's about playing with that, with how can we get a group to get to a certain learning and then apply it back in their own day-to-day thing. So this is why I've got like 2.5 days separated by 2 weeks so that they can experiment with it. And then in the second session, it's like more feedback, and there's also some practical exercises. And it's fun.
Like, when you talk about this, I have to share with you a frustration that I have, and perhaps get some guidance from you. So I'm running a training which I really like, based on Lisette Sutherland's, you know, how to basically how to facilitate remotely, how to help a team, a group, find meaning, have effective meetings, cooperate together, resolve conflicts, all of this in an online setting. And I add a lot of stuff that's my own, as you know.
Yeah.
Two things. One is, for sure, my training isn't the training of anyone else who runs the same. So I have problems finding an audience. And the big dilemma that I wanted to hear what you have to say about it is about pricing. How do you decide? How do you put a money finger on something that you offer?
Okay, that's I'm gonna start with this question because it's probably the easiest or the most challenging. So how do I put money on that? So for the visualization trainings that I give, it's easy because I've got some material costs, some license costs, and I want to make some, so I kind of guess how many people will be there, and I try to make a living out of it. So I try to make sure that I don't, you know, run myself into the ruin. So I do some math calculations based on whatever I send to the participants. So on the storytelling string of events, I did pay whatever you think is fair. It was like every 2 weeks, 90 minutes. So maybe the personal investment is different for me. It's like not a full day, it's and so on. So I thought, hey, what will people pay? And I've had people pay like 0 because they were out of work, and people pay 500 and whatever in between. For this arrogance for trainer, I had a choice. I could either run a simulation of all the costs involved and whatever, or use the wet finger technique, which is like go and see where the wind blows. And I tried it. I put a price on it, and I've had people register for it. So does that mean that the price is fair? I don't know.
No, the question is not fair. So like, there's a balance between, like, no, I don't want people to lose the opportunity to learn because of the price that they can't pay.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I want to charge as much as I can because I love to make a living.
Yeah.
No, it's the same, by the way, for these. You know these, right?
Yes. Yes. Of
Yeah.
course, I have them.
Yeah, so I don't know how much to charge for them, and we have all the time a dilemma with these. Just so you know, these are. Do you want to say a few words on what they are? It's interesting.
So these are the cards you see there are cards, meeting spicer cards that Dove and Regis developed together. Kind of, I would call them. I would not call them best practices for meetings, because that would be like framing it into and constraining it, whether that's totally not the purpose. So you would take best practices for meetings and flip it over, and you would have meeting spicer cards, which is like, okay, you know, what could we do to spice the next meeting up, and not know in advance how we will spice it up. Basically, you've got meeting starter cards and meeting end cards. And the idea is you pick at the start of a meeting starter card, and then you do what it says.
So I'll show it, and because I also wanted to show you a cool thing that we did here.
Oh.
So let's say when we start the meeting, we take a card at random, which is just let me pick one. Yes, this one. Okay, and no. Yes. So this is the card, and what's written here is, let's try this today. The sound of silence. It's a good one. Let's share 20 seconds of silence. Okay, so this is a way to start the meeting. After 20 seconds, say, thanks, let's start. And what I wanted to show you here, CL, that this is a remote meetings edition, which means that one, we curated things that are special for remote meetings, but two is, I don't know if you see it, the card is the same on both sides.
That's smart, so that you can hold it up for the group.
Yeah, so I hold it and I read it at the same time. Of course, I have to have the background. And so anyway, so this is, for the large context, this is something that I think is great and that we're trying to sell. And a big dilemma that we have is, how much do we charge for it? One, because we want to make what?
I actually teach this. And so I can help you out here. And so and it goes against a lot of what other people teach, but I've had years and years and years of this, and it works.
Why but?
It takes a certain amount of self-confidence to do it, and belief. It's probably going to be uncomfortable. So right out of the gate, you kind of have to accept that. It's all an experiment. And so that's part of the discomfort. The other part of it is that you can change it, which is completely what everybody says is against the rules. It's not so. That's a construct. There's a number of different ways you can go about it. You can reverse engineer it. I'm a big, thing of the wet finger and testing. There's also a thing of trusting your gut, but you have to kind of quiet yourself and say, but you have to listen to the voice in your head. And as long as you're open for it, like, what is this worth? And then you have to be quiet. And then it gets louder and louder, but there's a little voice, and it does it every time. And so if you teach yourself to trust it, you'll hear it every time. And so right after you ask the question, what's the first thing that pops into your head? And it's generally that price. And so then you say, okay, what if I add, 25? What if I add 100? And what if I add another 100? And you'll start to feel uncomfortable. And as soon as you start to feel uncomfortable, that's about the sweet spot, personally, for us. And it's, you know, it's kind of like the thing of what the market will bear. Now, money's a tool for me. It also depends on your relationship to money and where your discomfort is. So you might want to look into that, and explore that a little bit. But it's, you know, so many people I know, they underprice things, or they let somebody else set the price and it's outside of their comfort zone, so they can't talk about something without feeling uncomfortable. So that the working on our relationship with the money is kind of necessary. Not totally thing, but getting to know where the sweet spot is of what you feel the value is and what you would pay for it. There's a number of different factors that, you know, but just explore it. It's an exploratory adventure thing with it.
Yeah. From what you said, the main point for me is that currently I think we're underpricing it, but I don't want to change it. So people who bought it, you know, like there's something
Well,
there.
there's another aspect of it, because, you know, money's a tool. I like money. And so I'll price it as high as I can possibly get it. But then on the other end of it, I'm absolutely adamant about helping people at all levels. But I don't want to give it away. But let's have an exchange.
Yeah.
So I'll say, so I build into an exchange part of it. And even if it's as simple as an essay question, you know, it's like, why do you want these cards? You know, or if you want it, or if you do it, can we exchange for a testimonial? So, because there's a value exchange that we as humans, there's something, I don't know, pleasing about it, but there's something we feel a balance with that, especially because of the culture of money value is kind of screwed up. And so if we do an exchange thing like that, and so it's like, you know, like with a seminar, I'll have certain spots designated, but let's have an essay question. Let's have a discussion about it. Yeah.
I've experimented at some point also to have two prices for the same workshop, where people could select I'm broke, or I'm feeling generous today, something like that.
That's good.
An excellent joke about this.
Oh.
Yeah.
So there's a guy who goes to a hooker, sorry, but and he asks how much, and I don't know prices, but so I'll make it up. And she says 50 for normal, 60 for Spanish. And says, you know what, I'll take the Spanish. And they do whatever they do, and when he gets to pay and say, wait a minute, what was Spanish here? And she says, I forgot, ole. Okay, so when once I worked with someone who, like, we created software, and we had 3 versions. We had the freemium, yeah, like we had the free, we had the normal, and we had an extra one with some options, like a nicer background, whatever, and no one bought it. And he says, yes, but because you have the 3rd one, they buy the 2nd one.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of game there.
I do that. I have the on certain other things that I sell, I'll do the you know, the low end budget, and I'll do the middle one, and then I'll do what I call the Disneyland thing. And they you sell them, you know, I sell it, but the majority of it is the middle one. Yeah.
And there's also the thing of Dan Ariely. Everyone knows Dan Ariely? Only me.
Not sure.
I'm not sure.
So Dan Ariely created, or like he's a figure in something that's called a social economics, I think. And he has something which is he calls the price of paying. Okay, so if I have 2 things for you to buy, one with 1 cent and one with 2 cents, and the one with 2 cents is worth much more, you will buy the one with 2 cents. But if I tell you the first one is for free and the second one is for 1 cent, again, 1 cent difference, everyone will go for the first one. Because just to reach for your pocket and to pay something is a painful thing. And this is like a barrier that you have to break. And what he said, and this is a fascinating experiment that he did, he gave a list of items and asked people to price them. I don't know, a Fender guitar and a 19 or whatever Chauvernier, machin, whatever wine, and a bottle of mineral, a lot of stuff. And he asked people to fill in the form. And in the form, the first thing that you have to fill is the 2 last digits of your ID. And consistently, people who have a higher ID put higher prices because they have no clue. And the first number of reference that they got out of their head was higher. Okay. So all of this thing of pricing is really fascinating.
It really is. Also, the thing of people will value if you, they will want to something of value. So if you price it low, and especially women, it's the number of women that I help and consult with, and they consistently undervalue it, and they they want to help, or they want to this, or they undervalue themselves, but it's like no, double it, triple it, more than that. And as soon as they do that, then they sell stuff, because people think that it's actually worth something. And if it's the value is too low, people automatically assume that if they're selling it that low, then it's just not really worth anything. So it's, setting it, it's so much psychology goes into the pricing.
Great. So first of all, I must talk to you offline about this, because like it's also a matter of how I price my services. It's not only training. It's like
I'll trade you a pack of cards for it.
With pleasure.
See how that goes?
And I think,
and not only this, so I did already a few trainings where I traded with people like CL, my training for their training.
I do too.
This is no headache. There's no brainer there.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how much is a horse, but here's my horse, and I'll take your horse.
Right. And it's like, I love bartering. I love bartering and trading, and I'm also an artist. And so when I was
me too.
really
We have to talk.
Yeah. I see. I knew it when you started out. I was like, oh, I'm in. I want to talk to you. But there's when I was in my, late teens, early 20s, and when it just, I crossed the line of like, holy shit, people will trade money for me to play. That's mind blowing. And it's like, I accidentally found that the higher I priced something, the better it sold. And the more they how their thought process has changed. So I've been experimenting with this since then.
So this is a great opportunity you had, because what I noticed, I've got one of my daughters, she's into art, and I don't say that only as her dad, because she's doing stuff where I'm like, okay, this is like, taking pages of books, putting them on the wall, and then having like drawing pictures on that, and it's, really fascinating. It's like, yeah, but it's just nothing. So hey, art is worth stuff, and I don't know whether this is society or whatever that makes people believe, it's a construct that, hey, you're not going to sell stuff if you're just making pictures or whatever. This is just something. But no, it's really, it's everywhere. And getting,
okay, we'll trade something. We'll figure out what we can trade, because I want in on your story thing. Okay, totally. And then I'll do private mentoring sessions with your daughter. That'd be so cool.
So like, what I have to say about your daughter is, I think we confuse value with money. Like the fact that no one is ready to pay for her things doesn't mean at all that there's value. And you know what, we connect to what we talked about like 2 centuries ago. Value is a story, and it's up to her to create her story. So perhaps she does something that's worth nothing because it's my story when I see it, and perhaps she does something that's worth $1 million because it's your story. But it starts from what story does she tell herself when she does this?
Yeah. And it goes back also to whatever's called imposter syndrome and all these constructs that we have, like I'm not good enough and why would I, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
And art is very particular because if you make a product, it's a product that you thought of, it's manufactured by whatever means, and then it's out there. Art, you're like selling pages of your diary. It's extremely personal. And so the trying to create the disconnect and the distance, because it's like selling your children. And so and this is another thing I figured out very early. And so it's like I change prices from, event to show to event to show, depending on what it is. And people are like, you can't change the prices. And I'm saying, says who? I said, they're mine, and it's completely against the grain of what everybody talks about. And I never used galleries because they want to set the construct. And it's like, I'm setting the construct. And so I can change my price. And it's some things, and I tell people, it's one of my biggest selling points is like, okay, if that price looks good to you and you really want it, you better get it now, because maybe next week it's double the price. I don't know.
Yeah. I had once I visited someone who drew caricatures like in the newspaper that I liked, and he had several drawers, and whatever he didn't manage to sell the first month, he would put all of the package in the second drawer. And so every drawer had a price tag that is like 10% less.
No. God, that hurts me.
You
It hurts me to
would
hear that.
20% more.
Oh, God, yeah, no, right. You have to try jacking the price up, and I've done this.
Okay, I'm sorry I hurt you.
But I hear stories like this all the time, not just about art, but speaking, material and all this stuff. And I'm like, no, man, price it high.
Yeah.
Price it high.
And it's interesting. So I'll let you in on a secret, Sharon, because you know Doug, right? With Doug, I talked to him, and he has an issue with how to evaluate himself. He has no problem giving huge things for free.
You really? Shouldn't have told me that. No, I'm joking. I will not, I promise, take advantage of that.
Where can I find that?
and like one time I asked him to participate in something for 10 euros, and he said, in our house, any expense I ask my wife, because we're in a place that is we count every expense that we do and decide on it together. So it's okay. Perhaps
so I like hearing that, because I'm just like, oh, it can help somebody so much. Yeah. It doesn't take much to help the people that are have that, because it's a mindset, and it's money's a construct. It's just a tool.
It's so key and critical, because I've read 2 books. One is in French by I think Christian.
Never mind, we won't remember. You put it in the comments if you want.
Yeah, I'll put it in the comments, but it's about what does money say about you?
Yeah.
Ce que l'argent dit de vous. And I read it, and my wife read it, and then we could kind of compare and explain our reactions or actions, based on, I'm maybe a spender and she might be a hoarder, and that's fine, or it's vice versa. But if we don't talk about it, then it becomes tough.
Right.
And the other one was about rich father, poor father, or something like that.
Yes, rich dad, poor dad.
Rich dad, poor dad. And it's also about I didn't like everything in that book, but that's okay. But it showed me that money can be used as a tool and not as a goal. It's not a goal. It's not a purpose.
Exactly.
And this makes the choice of buying a car into something really much different than, oh, we need to have a second car.
Exactly.
And I started my freelancing life 2 years ago now, and I haven't bought a car. Hey, in the pandemic, who'd want to have another car lying there on the... Actually, it was a good choice, because otherwise I'd be paying money every month for something I don't use.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about putting the money to use into other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, fascinating.
So that was the easy question.
Oh,
I'm
yes, there's
tracking
another
back
one.
half an hour. You remember half an hour ago I said
Hey,
I don't even
didn't I
remember the
whistle out
first
of it?
one. I don't remember the first one, but
I'm
I
looking
like it. What?
I said I'm looking at the time, so we're gonna have to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
We're
not-
going to have to go, all of us, because
this has been phenomenal. I really
Yeah,
enjoyed
I'm not going to answer the first question then. I'm going to leave it in the open. You know, the Quran, there's no
Yeah.
answer to it.
So before you go, what I would like to, like, in fact, especially Sharon, since you were last time, I would like feedback on this. I don't even know how to call it. It's not a format, or this anti-pattern, whatever, anti-format. What does, or also, by the way, from Faustine, like you were in listening mode most of the time. What sticks? What works? What should be changed?
Saskia?
I'm listening.
Well, I didn't know what to expect. There was very little information on the event. I just saw Charles Louis who shared this information, and I thought, okay, I'll jump in it. Let's see, because he's very interesting. So I'll go and listen to him once more. I'm not sure how to answer that question, because the this anti format or anti podcast is I thought it would be some kind of discussion between the two of you. I didn't know it would be a Zoom. I thought we would just be hearing each other, and the fact that there is some interaction with people who are coming is of course very very welcome.
Saskia.
Sorry for hijacking that. I'm really sorry. No,
But he did invite everybody. I was invited. Okay.
True.
I didn't invade.
True. Fair enough. No, well, I am kind of a silent listener to most of discussions like that.
Yeah.
I'm not normally the participating type, but mostly because I just love to listen to interesting people and get everything they say and copy that every once in a while. So be prepared.
But the question is not why you didn't participate. The question is, what do you make out of all of this?
I don't know yet. We'll see. We'll
Okay.
discuss.
You have 1 minute to see, because we're done in 1 minute.
Did you like it?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. And Sharon, I'm sure you have a lot to say.
Yeah. I liked it. I liked this particular one, not because I, could talk so much. It wasn't that, but it was that there was so few people that we could keep our microphones on. Because in a larger group, you just can't. And that's okay too. So I like
I'm
that.
not sure, by the way.
You're what?
I'm not sure. So like in Doug's session, there is a protocol. So if someone wants to talk, there is a facilitator. I saw another technique which is really nice. When someone talks and I want to talk, I do this. And then if someone else wants to talk, he does this or she does this, and then and there's a queue accumulating, and also the queue. pushes the speaker to like the larger the cue, the more pressure there is on the speaker to release the cue.
To speed it up. Yeah. Yeah.
So you know, it's a space to experiment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, but for me, it's nice. Not enough awkward moments. I'll
No,
work on that next time.
we didn't even have the awkward silence.
Yeah. Awkward pause. Did you see Fred Ferguson? There was this host on TV, and when he would start talking to someone, the first thing he would do, he would take all of his notes and he would just tear them up and throw them, and he would just, you know, talk like that. And at the end, he said, "Okay, so now it's time to we have 1 minute. Would you like to have an awkward pause?" And then for 1 minute, they would just look at each other, you know, and a lot of people that he talked to are actors, so like it's a really rich expression of awkwardness.
Mm-hmm.
And to see silence, like I wanted also to talk to you about silence, not this time.
No.
I think silence is a huge tool that we don't use enough. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Doc.
Bye.
Thank you, so much.
Bye. Thank you.
Christine, Sharon, and Saskia.
Yeah.
It was good to see you.
Yeah, bye everyone. Thank
I'll
you.
contact you guys.
I'll contact you on LinkedIn. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.